Why? Why are they doing this to Millarworld? I don't understand it. Jupiter's Legacy, now Super Crooks. I mean, what are you doing, Netflix? Is this the reason you bought it? Before I get into my review of Super Crooks on Netflix, a original Netflix animation or anime, consider this your spoiler warning because I will be talking some very disappointing spoilerish. So you've been warned. Not even that spoilerish because this thing was so boring. So you've been warned. So this thing was just pacing hell. The only thing that's good about this animation is the animation. It has that old school anime feel, which I'm always a fan of, given the new era of animation with What Ifs from Marvel's What Ifs and Arcade, the way the animation world is building. It's refreshing to see something that looks like it was done in the late 1990s. So I was a fan of it. Not a lot of people are now. They want it to be more invincible, if you will, at least in that level. But I enjoyed that part of it. Then that's just it. That's as basic as my like for this show extends. The traditional aspect of the animation. Other than that, everything is a miss. Where this is supposed to be a spin-off of Jupiter's Legacy. I don't know where in the timeline it exactly matches, but they used the same characters from the live action that we saw a few months back, and they're in this universe. So it's supposed to be sometime before our Jupiter's Legacy that we know, even though the Jupiter's Legacy that we saw was kind of modern, but kind of half in the past. So obviously, in for this story, Super Crooks, it's in the present, and they refer back to like in the first 6 episodes. They keep on touching base on the mythos of Jupiter's Legacy, but only to have them involved so you're aware that this is in that universe. And I had such high hopes for this. Now Super Crooks is being done, or was done, for this animation, but it's going to be adapted into live action, and I'm assuming that that's the reason that they made this anime, so you at least get familiar. I hated that I hate the fact that they're doing it this way, because it's not like a breaking animation. I would have preferred if they would have gone full in on the grotesque of it, or the full gore that it is in the comic books. Now, if you're familiar with the comic book or the graphic novel dealing with the Super Crooks, it is super gory, bloody, and that's what makes, Miller's work awesome. That's why he won awards for, Civil War, for the Logan storyline. I mean, he has a way to make these characters so realistic and fleshed out, and on top of that, real consequences. And this anime ends up falling really short. I wish they would have put their chips all in that aspect and given us a little bit of that invincible shock value. I mean, do you remember episode 1, at the end of episode 1, when we saw Omni-Man go ballistic on the Guardians of the World? Everyone was shook. Twitter was a buzz. Social media was going crazy. And I think they should have done that in this. And I know I started off saying I enjoyed the tradition. And mind you, towards the end and a little bit scattered throughout it, they hint at, hey, look at how we could take risk. Look at how we're going to show this woman's head getting blown off, or these guys getting sliced up and diced up. But they don't do enough of it to keep you interested. You know that there's a heist going on. There's like an overarching story, but the pacing is just so bad. And again, it's done in a traditional way with the whole and the little noises that they make in anime. It tries to be too clever with its own self and be like, oh, we're not gonna do what everybody wants to do. And that's the problem. That's why I started off this review saying, what are they doing over there at Netflix with Millarworld, and all of his properties going to be done this poorly? And if it is, sell them back, please. Don't ruin more crap. The song, the just not even the intro song. The intro song was horrible. It felt like a rip off Michael Jackson, and within the 3 episodes, you are annoyed where you're waiting for the new episode to come up just to press the skip button, because not only is the animation of them dancing like, what is that supposed to be funny? Like, oh, look at us, we don't take our superheroes freaking seriously, so we're gonna have an intro with them dancing. Why? What was the point? Your heads are so far up to your you know what and smelling your own farts that it came off bougie, and like you're just trying too hard when you don't need to. Like, oh, we're gonna be different. We're gonna be this unique property. And I don't know if Miller signed off on this, and if he did, shame on him. But since he sold it to Netflix, I don't think he has much say to it. But that the whole, and then just that's just the intro, the music throughout the whole thing with this happy upbeat kind of thing. I'm like, why? It doesn't fit the mood. It doesn't fit the situation or the scene that I'm watching. Why is it in here? And again, they're trying to shoot it in this traditional way, but it doesn't work in this instant. I already mentioned the bad pacing. It is the most horrible pacing you've ever seen in an anime. This thing's 13 episodes long, but it feels like if it's 50. That's how bad it is. You could have condensed this to maybe five episodes, maybe max 8, and it would have flowed a lot better. Again, they try to do it in a traditional anime where like one scene takes 3 or 4 episodes to get to. The one is the Ragnarok, and I did something back then. And if you're familiar with anime, you know there's like a fight scene, and that fight scene takes 3 episodes to just fully flesh out and get from start to finish. And they try to do that, and it breaks. It doesn't. You have no familiarity with the characters. You're trying to get familiar with the characters, but they're all drawn the same. It's like a cookie cutter drawing as far as which one is which, and then you're supposed to remember their names. And it's not even towards the end, towards literally episode 13, where they get some kind of outfits that you're like, okay, this is this guy, and I'll give it that the last episode 13 was probably the best one, the conclusion, because it was gory, it was fast paced, everything was like, okay, we have to finish it, so we got to get to the point, bam 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 bam, and it flowed so much better, where I was like, why didn't they do this? I quit going in after 5 episodes. I was running through the motions. At this point, I was like, you know what? I've already devoted this much time to it. They're only 22 minutes long, around there. So it wasn't like a huge commitment. But I was like, screw it. I'm already this far in. So I'm going to just stick it out. And finally, the voice acting, God damn it, it was horrible. The dubbing that they did for this was horrendous. I don't know if they're not paying these actors enough to care, but it sounded like they didn't care. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this hack, huh? Yeah, we're going to do this, huh? Like they tried too much to be like this old school anime, and it was a complete miss. Why? You guys got some dope ass characters in Millarworld, and you guys are destroying it. The first episode of Jupiter's Legacy was probably the best one out of any one of those. It's too convoluted, simple, dummy it down for us. That's why the story arc in Civil War, and when we saw Old Man Logan or Logan in the big screen, they didn't take everything that he wrote. They only took one thread and made that into the backbone of their story. That's why Civil War, by some, is considered one of the probably, I don't know about the greatest superhero movie, but as far as the Captain America movies, that's probably the best one. Yes, it had multiple characters, but the way it was fleshed out, the drama between these two groups, the way that Sony, I think, or Fox, Fox in this instance, when they did Logan and they grabbed the storyline that he wrote for Old Man Logan that won award, and they didn't take everything out of that, but they took like again one part and ran with it as the backbone, and used the source material to maybe deviate a little bit, but not too much. Where you're like, this is amazing, and you were in awe of this. And not only that, I could name off a couple more works that he's done, where when they've been adapted into the big screen, they've hit home runs, and that's the beauty of his work. So don't deviate too much. When I heard that they were doing Jupiter's Legacy, I was like, dope, we're gonna get some new superheroes. And everybody's like, some people were like, oh, it's a saturated market or whatnot. I'm like, there is no such thing. We saw that with Invincible. There is still a niche for that, because we are that generation that is gonna push this on for like the next 20, 30 years until we're old and can't, don't have no money for the tickets and it gets too overpriced. Until then, we are driving the market, and there is a place for them. But come on, Netflix, stop ruining this man's projects and visions and what he freaking spent time doing. If this is the case, just stop. Hold it, make them into animes. Don't do any live actions. Don't give us something that we're just gonna clown you guys on anymore. And just might as well just do it a normal, newer animation than what you presented here. It was horrible. My 9-year-old walked out and said, "This is annoying, Dad." And she only heard a couple things. She goes, "This anime that you're watching is annoying," from a 9-year-old. So take that for what it is. I'm sorry for the fans of this show, if there is any, about, maybe you thought this was great and groundbreaking. It sucked for me. So, but anyways, those are just my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. And like always, that's a wrap.